Senator Johnson, we've talked a little bit about behavioral health, but the Democrats, which used to be your party, have been in control in Salem almost exclusively since 2007, except for the 1 year the House was tied. And I know that you and all three of you gave a lot more money for behavioral health in the most recent session, but we still rank near the bottom in access to mental health services, substance abuse services. We have one of the highest rates of addiction in the country. You're no longer a Democrat, but you were a Democrat for the past 20 years. So could you explain why this state, which professes to care so much about the most vulnerable citizens, does so little for them?
Sure. I think part of it has hinged on this general notion of justice reinvestment and getting people out of institutions. The promise that was made back when John F. Kennedy was president about emptying some of the larger and then arguably very inhumane institutions and providing services back in local communities. That promise was never fulfilled. We have been very interested in not spending money on putting people into the Oregon State Hospital. I applaud President Peter Courtney on his rehabilitation of the physical plant there. I remember the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, filmed in that facility. He turned it into a bright, modern clinical space. But I don't think that there was ever the same urgency to provide adequate funding for staff. The paucity of available mental health staff has accelerated the problems that we've had in running the state hospital. The state hospital's budget was buried inside OHA. On my time in Ways and Means, we managed to drag that budget out so that you could see the deficiencies. I think there's been bad management at OHA. Back, I don't know how long ago, we had 6,000 mental health beds, including the facility over in Pendleton, which was subsequently turned into a prison. I think OHA is now down to about 550 plus another handful at Junction City. We've been on again, off again, opening Junction City. It's always characterized as a money crisis. I don't think that's it. I think that there has been a profound bias against institutionalization. And as I think Christine mentioned, at some point we're going to have the conversation about what to do with people who are a danger to themselves and others. Mentally ill and drug addicted people do not make good decisions about their own well-being or the well-being of others. And then I think the other thing that's exacerbating and accelerating the mental health crisis in Oregon was our laissez-faire attitude about drugs, including the voter-passed ballot measure 110. I campaigned against that. I voted against it. I think if the Oregon voters had an honest conversation, I mean, the question was posed to them, treatment or incarceration? Well, that's like saying you want world peace. Check, yes. But I don't think anybody ever dug deeply enough into the practical effects of legalizing drugs and turning Portland, for example, into an open-air drug market. I don't know how many people's deteriorating mental health has been exacerbated by very potent, very available, very, in some cases, inexpensive drugs. So we've had the combination of mismanagement of the state hospital. We've found plenty of money to throw at other stuff with questionable efficacy. The $200 million that the legislature, at the urging of the presiding officers, put into schools after COVID. I've heard from school administrators and classroom teachers that was not money well spent, so our priorities have not focused on mental health. We've had, as we all have, at least Tina and I commented on, poor leadership in the mental health arena. The fact that we're 50th in mental health is a state shame on all of us. So, I mean, those are some of the reasons.
Great. Thank you, Representative Drazen. Same question. Why are we so deficient in our approach to mental health and substance abuse?
Because of my opponents. I mean, they've literally been in charge for this entire time. Betsy was the Ways and Means co-chair. Tina was the Speaker of the House. The opportunity to see the real challenges facing our state and address them were entirely within their control. We talk about high barrier shelters, low barrier shelters. There is no lower barrier to progress and improvement and achieving your goals and your vision for the future of the state than having single party control. That's what my opponents enjoyed, single party control.
So the consequence of single party control was that what, Tina and Betsy didn't spend enough money on mental health, or what didn't they do? Or
It's
what
that
did they
the
do?
priorities primarily went to political agenda. So we had these extensive, long conversations where it was nuclear war over cap and trade, when the day-to-day of governing was completely set aside. And all it was political gamesmanship every single day inside that building, when what we needed were people who were willing to work together and run government. Like, if you take a look at what they're doing in other states when it relates specifically to behavioral health, they're getting pretty innovative. Like when we're talking about behavioral health apprenticeships and behavioral health aides and more peer-to-peer. And we do a lot of that in Oregon. We're starting down that road. But this is not a new problem. We've had a meth challenge in Oregon for a decade. And so then we double down and we say we're going to cut off our nose to spite our face and we're just going to legalize hard drugs. But this is not a new challenge for our state. This has been a long time in coming. And when you talk about the challenges in our schools, and if you're talking about preventing people from getting into the criminal justice system, you need strong schools, you need strong families, you need less drug use, you need less drug abuse. And all of these things are not new issues. All of these things have been out there. The communities, the advocates have been saying, this is a problem, this is a challenge, focus, focus, focus. And instead we've been having these global political conversations that are more about national politics than what it's like to live here as an Oregonian.
Great, thank you.
And Nigel, can I respond, or do you want to go to Tina?
Quick, please be quick, and then we'll go to Tina.
I'll be very quick. I find it interesting that Christine says, work together and run government. I just would like to know how that worked out when she was poolside in Reno instead of staying here and running government.
Why is Oregon at the bottom of the barrel in an area that's so important to you, and you
Really
had
an important
control?
question. So I don't want to get into too much history, but let's remember the Great Recession. I know people have short memories,
That
but
happened in all 50 states.
no, I understand that.
Yeah.
But we were particularly hit hard by our over-reliance on the income tax, right? I chaired that committee at the time. We made massive cuts across the board on all kinds of things. So we have not substantially rebuilt from the cuts of the Great Recession. I also think that in Oregon, when the way we're set up, the counties are the mental health authority. That has created an extra layer of confusion, I think, to actually serve people. Other states are a lot more centralized. I don't think we've held our coordinated care organizations to account. When we did the last 5-year contract for our CCOs on the Medicaid side, I made sure that one of their goals was behavioral health integration. We're not seeing that. And when the legislature says, make this better, we assume the executive is going to do it. It hasn't happened. I'm going to hold our coordinated care organizations accountable for mental health integration. When I hear that Care Oregon, here in the metro area, has not spent all their behavioral health dollars when we're in a crisis, I'm astounded, pissed off. I can't even tell you how I feel about it. That has to change, right? People on the street today, they all have Medicaid. They are all covered. We have worked hard to get everybody on the health plan or private insurance or in the exchange, whatever. When the CCOs aren't paying attention, that is a problem. And again, I believe OHA and the governor has been absent on this issue. They don't care enough. I do.